Alright guys, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know how to explain it, but there it looks like a sinkhole or a pond right there. I'm gonna walk right there and just take a look. I'm gonna leave the truck running because this area feels really creepy. Let me grab my camera stick. Stand by. Alright, you guys, I want to show this to you. It's a sinkhole. We're in the Suburban today. I'm a few miles from the property. When I first started walking up to it, if you've seen me where I stopped, there was a rabbit. It's right over here somewhere. Big rabbit, wild rabbit. Guys, this is a deep one. But you can hear water running in it. But what I wanted to show you, look at where the something's been like setting right there. Look where it's cleared. Wow, look. There's a trail right down the edge of it. And it goes right down the edge right here. Isn't that neat? You can see the other side right there's the other side of the sinkhole. That's probably, I'd say, 100 yards across. I don't know where the end is that way, but look. This is the tops of the trees that are down there. I mean, you just kind of get an idea of some of these trees. Some of them are pretty big. That's a giant oak there. Listen, there's something moving down there. You hear the limbs breaking? It's right back there. See some dirt stirred up down there, right there and right there. Looks like they're going down the bank. That is a trail right there, very deep trail. Oh, you can see the entrance right there. Oh, that's coming this way. Hold on. I don't know what that is. It might be a bear. I'm not gonna take a chance. Beautiful area, but there's something down there moving. You guys should have heard the limbs breaking because I'm not using the wireless mic. I'm using the microphones inside the camera, so you should have heard that. You can't even tell it's a sinkhole from right here. When I come up on it, right over here, right there, I could see the tops of the magnolia way back there, and that's too big to be a baby tree. That's why I walked over to check. I'm gonna go down here and we'll shut the truck off. I'm just not gonna do it here. There's definitely something down there. I'm sure it's an animal. I hope. Give me just a second. Alright, you guys, I got the camera back on the roof of the Suburban. I got it mounted on the rack, the luggage rack, on the driver's side front portion of the luggage rack. I just want you guys to be able to see down the road. I don't know what's down here. I don't think we went this far when we rode the 4-wheeler down here. We're gonna keep going and see where it goes. I don't want to pop my tire. Alright guys, it's going to be engine noise with it mounted on the hood, so I may end up just lowering the volume of the engine and putting a little music or something to it. I don't know, I'll figure it out. But I'm going to give you guys a better view from the hood so that I don't have tree limbs smacking the lens and bending the camera around, moving it. It's creepy as crud right here. I keep hearing stuff all around me. You guys keep your eyes open. Here we go. There's a tree right over there. It sure is creepy out here. Golly. I don't want to go too far. I just got the goosebumps when I got out of the truck. And I started walking back here. I got back about 50 or 60 yards from the truck, and everything eased up and it felt wonderful, and I kept going. I guess I'm about 200 yards. And it's like somebody flipped a switch, like I walked into a wall of just freakiness. All right, let me get this set up. I'm going to set this microphone up, this camera. Probably going to mount it right here on this tree. I'm not going no further. It's just getting real weird. And back there, just, I don't know why it's creeping me out. I'm going to sit right here. Okay, give me a second. Yeah, this area is weird. We're going to do some articles. I'm going to go. I'm not going to spend a lot of time right here. I don't like this. Well, the ground's cleared right here. I just noticed that. Like, I don't know. It looks like something's been fighting here before the rain. All right, guys, we're going to get on with it. I got storms all around me. I got one coming from that direction, too. All right, this is titled Dogman Encounters in Central and South America. The location is in Mexico, Nicaragua, Brazil, and Argentina. The information source is multiple eyewitness testimonies and police reports, including missing children reports. South American explorer has reported an extraordinary sighting deep within the continent's unexplored wilderness of an upright walking wolf. This unprecedented encounter has sent shockwaves through the scientific community. An explorer, whose identity is being withheld for security reasons, recounted their astonishing experience during their recent expedition. According to their detailed testimony, a wolf-like creature standing upright on its hind legs emerged from the depths of the jungle. The creature possessed a striking black ebony fur coat and piercing amber eyes that shimmered amongst the foliage. Pardon me. The sight was both awe-inspiring and unsettling. I had to question my senses at that moment. The explorer is still shaken by the encounter. He said the creature's movements mirrored that of a human, but retained the essence of a wild wolf. Now, encounter in northwest Argentina in 2016. A citizen swears he saw a werewolf. According to his neighbor, the incident occurred at 1 a.m. at the intersection of two streets. The witness was driving his motorcycle and suddenly saw a strange animal run on two legs. He said it was brown and the face was almost human, and it ran into an irrigation channel. Now, encounters in eastern Argentina near the Uruguay border. People in a particular neighborhood had reported seeing a kind of animal that walks on two legs and it's tall as a horse. Encounter in eastern Argentina near the Paraguay border. Here in this location is a cluster of 5 sightings. Dogmen have been stealing hens in Overa. Several people have seen the dogman in different sections of this town. The other 4 sightings include a report of pigs being slaughtered, ripped to pieces, but not eaten. Another man on a motorcycle was scared by something he saw that had dark skin and big red eyes that was similar to a dog, but not a dog, as it measured about 5 feet either long or tall. In this same area, there are reports of a werewolf that howls and disturbs people's sleep. It fights dogs in this area too. I just had a bug in my shirt. Sorry. Encounter in southern Brazil along the coast. This rogue dogman destroyed part of a fence and left prints that came up to a house window where it had looked inside. Encounters in eastern Brazil along the coast in 2009. A dogman was eating dogs at this location. A farmer named Maria was watching TV and got up to turn off the kitchen light when she saw this very large, strange animal, very furry, with big ears and completely black in color, and it was eating one of her dogs. A few days later, the same farmer found 3 more dead dogs with pieces of them around her yard. The farmer said, "I have never in my life seen a dog being killed like that. I could only find 3 legs and the heads of the dogs. The rest it must have swallowed." That's bad. Encounters in southern Brazil along the Uruguay border. A 21-year-old girl was attacked by a dogman. She said it was almost 7 feet tall, covered in black fur. She said she was held by the neck by this creature and taken to a courtyard. She fought to get free, but to no avail. She said it seemed to have no skin, just all fur. Excuse me. Whatever that may mean. It wanted to kill her, and it would not stop drooling and was making a strange noise. When the neighbor turned on the light in the courtyard, the dogman dropped the girl and fled on all 4s like a dog. She received scratches on her arms, face, and chest and was treated at a local hospital. She reported it to the police and made a sketch of the creature. An encounter in the city of Managua in southwestern Nicaragua. A man who now resides in the U.S. relates a story of when he lived in Nicaragua when he was 7 years old. He says his mother used to take him to stay with his grandmother, who lives about 3.5 miles away, close to Lake Nicaragua, which is full of bull sharks. The area where his grandmother lives was under constant construction, and the city was deforesting the area for more houses. Light posts were erected on streets where homes had not yet been built. There were bridges over creeks connecting other areas closer to Lake Nicaragua and the mountains. A lot of local people lived there. They cooked rice and beans on stoves and made homemade tortillas. My mother would send me to those neighbors to buy beans and tortillas, which is what I did that afternoon. I had never believed in werewolves, witches, the supernatural, or anything unknown. But what happened shocked me to understand about keeping an open mind and respect others who have seen the paranormal. I was traveling with 2 containers to put the beans and tortillas in that afternoon. I had to go through an area where the creek went all the way to Lake Nicaragua. There were still forested areas up to the buildings that were under construction but not yet finished. The road I walked on was between the forest and the creek. I do not know what that was. I hope the microphone caught that. Holy cow, that was loud. I'm trying to finish this, you guys. I don't have any bad feeling of dread or anything. I was not expecting that. I don't know what that was. It was right there, and now I just heard it right there. Okay. I'm going to try to ignore it. I'm going to leave if this mess keeps on or if I see anything. I'm sorry. I don't know why this mess it's almost like it follows me. Guys, I checked the map before I set up to do this, and I am almost 6 miles from our property. I thought I'd be about 2 miles. I am almost 6 miles, 5.9 something miles. The creek that runs through our property, it does a big circle, and it's, if I go back through there and get, or back that way, I think the truck's that way. If I go straight back to the truck and go past it about 60 yards, the creek that runs through our property, that direction, it circles around and it's right there. I mean, it's right there. It's 270, 280 yards from me right now. I'm hoping whatever it is, my voice is scared off. All right, let's finish this one. Jeez. The road I walked on was between the forest and the creek. As I got closer to my grandmother's area, the construction could be seen. I had to cross a bridge over the creek to get to a road that led to the outskirts of the city of Managua, where my grandmother's house was. On my way, I had no ill feelings on the road. The sun was still up, and it was about 6:30 p.m. We are near the equator, and it stays light longer. I had no worries. The people around this area knew me, and it took about 1 hour to do this. On the way back from my grandmother's, I got close to where the new buildings were being constructed, and by then it was dark with a full moon. It was 7:47 p.m. according to my watch, which I always wore. As I finished crossing the bridge over the creek, I came up to a building under construction with no roof or doors. At this point, I was about 450 yards from the bridge and creek, with the full moon lighting up the inside of the building through the open doorways. Then I heard a growling noise. It was like a dog growling. I was never fond of dogs, as I had one chase and bite me when I was 6 years old. As I heard this growling sound, I don't know whether it was curiosity or stupidity, but I decided to investigate and backtrack and see if it was a wild dog with rabies, because rabies was rampant in our country at that time. I got a rock in one of my hands just in case it decided to attack or mess with me. Horrifically, to my surprise, it wasn't a dog, and when I got up to the open doorway, there stood, about 11 feet away, this thing that I have only seen in werewolf movies like The Howling. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It slowly rose from a hunched position to where the moonlight lit up its face. The building walls were only 8 feet tall with no roof or ceiling yet, and this thing's head was about 5 inches above it when it stood up, making it close to 8 feet 6 inches tall. I was having trouble speaking and in a state of awe and disbelief. This thing had long black pointed ears and a snout like a German shepherd and a yellow glow to its eyes. Its hands were like a raccoon's, with a curve or cup to them. Out of frightened confusion, I spoke out loud and said, "No!" The creature seemed to hear me and immediately turned its head to look at me. At this point, I had two options: stay and get eaten, or run as fast as I could the mile back to my grandmother's house. Option 2 seemed better, so I turned and ran as fast as I could toward the direction of my grandmother. I could feel it behind me, but never dared to turn and look. The funny thing was, I never dropped the 2 containers, and when I reached my grandmother's house, I ran inside because in those days she didn't lock her doors. I ran past my grandmother and into the kitchen grabbing steak knives, and I told them, "It's after me and I'm ready." They tried to convince me I was okay and to put the knives down, but I did not put them down until I was sure the werewolf was not showing up to attack my grandmother's house. This led to nightmares and horrible dreams for about 2 years after this encounter. Yeah, I guess that did. Yeah, that's a bad one. Southeastern Mexico along the coast. This is another encounter. What I'm going to tell you has never been told by me to anybody with the exception of my mother, because I still believe whatever I saw might come to hunt me. 45 years ago, I was living in Veracruz, Mexico with my family. I was 4 years old at that time. I remember it was during summer because we had just came back from our vacation. When we got back home, one of the neighbors told my mom she had lost her baby boy and it was a third tragedy around the neighborhood in a month. I recall my mom telling my dad that night that she was very scared and wanted us to move as soon as possible. He said that we would. When she was done talking to him, she called me and my brother to her and told us to never go outside after dark no matter what. About 2 nights later, we were celebrating my brother's birthday, and later my mom cleaned the house and put us to sleep. Sometime in the night, I woke up to go drink some water, and I noticed it was really bright inside the kitchen because the moonlight was coming through the window above the kitchen sink. I was too small to reach the upper cabinet, so I pulled the dining room chair over in front of the sink. At that moment, I happened to look at the neighbor's house, and I noticed someone or something very big in front of their door, and it seemed to be holding something. And when I got closer to the window to see what it was holding, I realized whatever was standing there was taller than the door. It had pointed ears and no clothing. Seeing this, I jumped and the chair made a loud noise. The thing turned and looked at me, and I saw its face. Its face looked like a German shepherd with bright red eyes. It was on 2 legs, and what it was holding was a baby. I got off the chair and I ran to my baby brother's room and held him for a long time. I was so scared that whatever I saw was going to come through our door and take us away. The next morning when we went to church, we were told the neighbor lady across from us had lost her child the night before, and nobody knew what had happened. When I heard that, I started crying, and my mom asked me what was wrong, and I told her what I had seen. She said we would be moving very soon and to never tell anyone what I saw. I haven't until now. From then on, I had a recurring nightmare. I see myself as a kid walking and being chased by the beast that I saw. Years later, when I was 25, I went to a fair and I entered the tent of a fortune-telling woman. She held my hand and told me a few things that were happening to me at the time. Suddenly, she pushed my hand away and told me to leave. When asking her why, she said I had a shadow and sooner or later it was going to find me. She said it was a very dark and mean thing looking for me. Asking her to help me, she said, "No, baby, it won't hurt you, just those around you and whoever tries to help you. So please go and avoid the woods." I have my dark moments, and when I'm looking around at any strangers coming towards me, I avoid the woods like the fortune-telling woman told me to, and this really did happen to me. Jeez. That's bad. I'm trying to hold my breath. The microphone's on my collar. This direction, which is to my right side. I swear I'm hearing keys jingling. I've heard it like 3 times. Sounds like keys. Maybe a game warden. I don't know if I'm on state land or not. There's nothing out here. There's no fences. Where I'm at now, there's nothing. So I don't know where I'm at. Let me see how long this one is. As I'm a little scared. Okay, this one here. This one's long. I may be able to show the pictures. Yeah, I may have Brother Don share the pictures for you guys. I'm just getting really creeped out. I'm scared already. I'm going to push on. I'm going to try, because we got storms coming. I'm not going to be able to do this tomorrow. It's going to be raining. All right, this is a different article. This is titled "The 1855 Bigfoot Attack of McCurtain County Wilderness Area in Southeast Oklahoma." The date is July of 1855, and the location is LaFleur County,
McCurtain County and McCurtain County Wilderness Area in southeast Oklahoma, which includes the Choctaw Indian Reservation and the Kiowa Indian Reservation. The information source for this article is multiple eyewitness testimony and evidence of partially eaten and stolen bodies. Guys, please hear me. When Brother Don puts a warning in these articles, I have not read this article. So you guys, he put a warning in here. Please heed the warning. If you have a weak stomach, if you have children in the room, please, especially with the children, listen to this before you allow them to hear it. Please. I don't know how graphic this is going to be, but the warning that Brother Don put in here is in capital letters, warning, some parts are graphic. So we're going to start with it. You guys, I'll try to give you a heads up when we get to the graphic parts. He normally labels them. All right, here we go. The preface reads, "This incredible yet violent encounter between men and Bigfoot creatures back in 1855 in what would eventually become the state of Oklahoma has sparked many a debate over the truthfulness of the events. For a fact, the Choctaw Indian family with the last name of Tobey did exist, and a man named Captain Joshua LaFleur existed also. Though there is no mention of him dying in a battle, at least not in any official documents available to the public. He was born in 1797 in the Choctaw Indian Nation, and he died in 1855 in Indian Territory at the age of 58, which would fit in the timeline because Indian Territory had been set up in 1838. Arkansas was referenced too, and this would fit in the timeline because the state of Arkansas had been set up in 1836. At the time of the 1855 story, the state of Oklahoma did not exist, not until 1907, so at least the story would have occurred between 1836 and 1907. This area has always been ground zero for Bigfoot sightings in Oklahoma. It has been suggested that the supposed LaFleur incident was based on a real incident that took place in a different location further west in Oklahoma, in Kiowa Indian Territory, which was related by an Indian elder. That will be discussed in the ending concluding thoughts. The tale is fascinating nonetheless." And the story begins, guys. This beginning part of the story has some graphic parts to it. Please listen to it before you allow your children or those with a weak stomach to listen to it. And if you have a weak stomach and you don't have no one to listen to it, I guess you can call it. If you don't have anyone to listen to it for you, to make a judgment call, if your stomach can handle it, just please skip this one. I don't want anyone getting sick or over something that we share, but it's important to get this information out. All right, here we go. The 1855 incident as we know it. Hamas Tobey was an unusually large man even for a Choctaw Indian. His father, Hanali Tobey, stood 8 feet 2 inches in height, and he weighed 540 pounds. Hamas and his 6 sons stood about 7 feet 2 inches or a foot shorter than their grandfather, Hanali Tobey. They were large and exceedingly strong, fierce warriors. Hamas and his 6 sons were the point riders for a troop of Choctaw cavalry known as the Light Horsemen. Many in the Choctaw Nation thought it was humorous that such large men riding draft horses referred to themselves as light horsemen. Hamas Tobey's men experienced something which none would ever forget. This day's assignment was to flush out some bandits that had been preying upon the local farmers. A 30-man troop would be going into an area which later would become the McCurtain County Wilderness Area in the future state of Oklahoma. That scared me. Did y'all hear that? I don't know what that is. Jeez, please. Lord, protect me. Send your warring angels to stand guard around me, Father. Defeat the enemy and put him under your foot. Get me out of here safely. In Yeshua, Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. I hope y'all are hearing that. I don't know what that is. It's still doing it. All right, let's try this. Okay. Hamas Tubby's men experienced something which none would ever forget. This day's assignment was to flush out some bandits that had been preying upon the local farmers. A 30-man troop will be going into an area which would later become the McCurtain County Wilderness Area in the future state of Oklahoma. It all began in a rather benign way. These bandits had been taking large quantities of corn, squash, beans, and other foodstuffs, along with a few head of livestock at night, and the bandits were very stealthy about it. The thieves were cagey, quiet, and never seen. They were also smart, as somehow they never ventured into Choctaw encampments on nights when a watchman was in place. Neither did the bandits ever fall into the traps set for them by farmers outside of Indian Territory. Those charged with finding and capturing these marauders began to develop a begrudging respect for the willingness of their adversaries as time went by and the petty thefts continued. While the thefts were annoying and did cause some hardships, neither the Choctaw or the neighboring settlers were afraid of the bandits. However, things changed once women and children began to go missing and apparently were being eaten by cannibalistic ape men or giants. This thievery had been taking place across the border in Arkansas as well as in Indian Territory. The captain of the troop of Choctaw Cavalry was a man named Joshua LaFleur, who was of mixed blood, part French and part Choctaw. The Choctaw men deeply respected him as impeccably honest, and he was very brave to a fault. The men had been traveling on horseback nonstop since 3 o'clock in the morning. They began their assignment at the tribal capital in Tuscaloma, and when they finally came to the Clover River, they let their horses eat, and the men decided to rest and eat as well. Non-stop riding for 8 hours, having to lead their horses across Little River, and the hot July sun were taking a toll on the men and their horses. When some time had passed, Captain Joshua LaFleur gave the order, and the men remounted, and they began the last leg of their trip. At or around 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon, the troop came to the edge of the area which the bandits were supposed to be inhabiting. The captain signaled and lifted hand with a let me start that over. The captain signaled with uplifted hand that the troop should come to a halt. Standing in his stirrups, Captain LaFleur used the ship's eyepiece, a telescope, and it's not clear what he saw in the eyepiece, but he promptly turned to his men and gave command for a full armed charge toward a stand of pine trees. The distance between the suspected bandits and the troopers was about 1,500 feet. The Tabee men and Captain LaFleur were at the front of the charge, and as the 30 men neared the thick pine forest where the bandits were, two things took place at the same time. The stench of death assaulted both men and horses, which made the horses uncontrollable. They were rearing, pitching, and throwing riders. Captain LaFleur and the 7 Tabee men were the only ones in the troop whose mounts were disciplined enough that they had continued to obey their riders and continued to charge through the pines in the midst of the bandits. Now we're getting into the graphic part. When the 8 men met with the bandits, they were totally unprepared for what greeted them. The clearing behind the initial tree cover was actually a large earthen mound. Strewn about the mound were numerous corpses of human children and women in varying states of decay. The men saw most of the other bandits fleeing into the tree line, but 3 really large, hairy, ape-like creatures remained at the mound to stand their ground. They were beating their chests and snarling. They realized this was no human foe. Captain LaFleur drew his sword, and with his pistol in hand, he charged the huge monsters. The nearest monster killed Captain LaFleur's horse with one blow of his massive hand. The monster never flinched as Captain LaFleur managed to roll off his horse, get up on his feet, while he poured bullets from his Patterson Colt revolver into the beast's chest. After emptying the revolver, he continued to press the attack with his sword. Many times did his sword meet the beast's flesh, and many times did blood spew from the gaping wounds on the beast's body, in which it roared in pain and rage. So quickly did this engagement take place that the Tabee men had barely enough time to take aim at the 3 monsters before one of the beasts flanked the captain and literally tore off Captain LaFleur's head from his shoulders with his 2 huge hands. There was not time for any delay due to shock. The Tabee men opened fire upon the 3 man-beasts. 7 .50 caliber Sharps buffalo rifles impacted the 3 simian-appearing brutes at the same time. From years of routine and practice, all bullets smashed into the 3 monsters' heads, with 6 rounds being fired into the heads of the 2 monsters, which were the culprits that killed their beloved Captain Joshua LaFleur. The 2 beasts dropped in their tracks. Only the youngest Tabee, Robert, had the presence of mind to pull a bullet into the head of the 3rd monster, but it missed and the creature fled, in which Robert gave chase. A legend was born that day. Robert Tabee, 18 years of age and 6 feet 11 inches, 373 pounds, chased down a wounded man-beast and finished the beast off with only his hunting knife. By the time the other 6 Tabee men caught up with Robert and the monster, Robert had already decapitated the beast. Holding the head aloft with both hands, Robert let out a primal scream which even made the horses panic. The light horsemen gathered their horse mounts and surveyed what was before them. Absolute carnage littered about the clearing. The partially consumed bodies of 19 children and women lay upon and about the mound. The stench of decaying bodies was bad enough, but the overpowering odor of the man-beast's urine and feces was more than the strongest stomach could endure. After retching violently, the men of the troop buried the bodies of the children and women in 19 small graves, along with their beloved Captain LaFleur, and as a matter of respect gave him a 21-gun salute. They built a large bonfire and placed the murderous man-beast upon it and lit it. As they rode back to Tuscaloosa, each man struggled with emotions and thoughts he had never imagined. It was said the Tabee warriors were plagued by terrible nightmares for years afterwards. Holy cow. Concluding thoughts and facts and another separate incident. Of course, the authenticity of this encounter has been questioned by skeptics. Some of the points they make to poke holes in this story are, number 1, they say bandits have turned into man-beasts, which has turned into Bigfoot. Why this would invalidate the story, we don't know. And number 2, the place where Joshua LaFleur was killed means looking for killers in Choctaw. This would seem to validate the event, not invalidate it. Number 3, the giants from the story, as told in Oklahoma and passed down for generations, were white, not hairy bipedal apes, but white men. Would this be provable in any way? Number 4, The original Oklahoma legend states that these giants were actually Viking descendants, and Viking presence in the region can be historically traced back to the 1100s. Again, would this be provable in any way? Has there really been Viking artifacts found in Oklahoma? Number 5. Settlers favored muzzleloaders, which is a fact that any antique arms guru can attest to. Even if this is true, what would stop the government and Captain LaFleur from wanting the best rifles available to the troop, especially if he trusted the Choctaw to not use them against settlers? And number 6. The 50 caliber Sharps buffalo rifles, which is probably the famous buffalo hunting rifles that didn't come out until the 1870s, at least 15 years or more after the supposed attack. Okay, well, let's suppose the 1855 date is slightly off and the attack really happened in the 1870s. That is possible. And number 7, if the guns used were 50 caliber Sharps, it seems unlikely that Native Americans would possess them. After all, the ingredients to make the bullets were not easily obtainable. The guns were only available through the Army and weapons trade at that time, and was selling out-of-date weapons to the Indians. The government at the time would not want to give their most prized weapons to Native Americans when there was a chance they could be used to kill settlers. Again, this troop, consisting of Captain LaFleur and Choctaw Indians, may have been trusted with the best weapons available at the time, considering what their assignments entailed and how dangerous they may have been chasing bandits who had already snatched and killed children. It's a fact, many Western tribes describe areas of their territory that were totally off limits, and the Indians refused to go there, for these were the territory of the Bigfoots. These areas were full of game, but the Indians were so terrified that they avoided them like the plague. Why would Indians avoid a forage-rich and game-rich area due to creatures that don't even exist, unless they really did? Probably the Bigfoots were more aggressive against Indians because the Indians did not have good methods for killing them. Power comes from the barrel of a gun after all. Bigfoots are highly intelligent and appear to have language. Guns are very powerful, much more powerful than the Indians' classical weapons. Bigfoots have probably learned to fear and respect us due to our weaponry, and that is why they are so much more pacifistic than they were in the Indian era, and even during the early era of white settlement of the West. And it's a fact, most animals figure out who is the apex predator and they leave it alone. In North America, humans are the apex predator. Most animals would figure this out at some point. For instance, grizzly bears that are highly aggressive are rapidly killed by humans, and surviving bears that pass on genes are more passive and avoidant ones. There is a precedent for stealing children too. During times of famine in Africa, chimpanzees are known to raid human villages, steal human babies, and eat them. A separate incident farther west. One man believes the LaFleur incident is based on an event that took place much farther west in Oklahoma and Kiowa Indian Territory, an event related to him by an Indian elder. According to the story, Kiowa women were placed in a special teepee or tent on the edge of camp when they started their menstrual cycle. The women stayed there, being tended to only by older women until their cycle was complete. The elder said women were considered unclean during their cycles, and Kiowa warriors were not only forbidden any physical contact with the females during this time, but they were not even to look upon them. This may seem harsh, but it's not too different than the way many cultures treat menstruating women in the past. The elder said that once long ago there had been trouble with ape-like creatures who were attracted by the scent of pheromones emanating from the tent where the menstruating women were housed. Since the tent was on the edge of the encampment, it proved to be an easy target for renegade apes who were said to have entered and carried off women on several occasions. To make a long story short, the Kiowa leadership decided this was unacceptable, and they put together a group of warriors to hunt down the kidnappers. The searchers did manage to track an ape back to its lair and killed not only it, but its entire family unit. Could the Leflore County Bigfoot War be actually based and have its roots on the other story told by the Kiowa Indian elder? Is there any truth to either tale? It is true Leflore County, Oklahoma is named after the prominent Leflore family of the Choctaw Indian Nation, according to the Oklahoma Historical Society's website, though it doesn't single out Captain Joshua Leflore as the reason for the naming of the county. Even if the 1855 Leflore County, Oklahoma Bigfoot War is totally fictional, it does seem to point to the fact that enormous hair-covered ape-like animals have been thought to reside in the region for a very long time, way before the Patterson-Gimlin film brought Bigfoot Sasquatch into America's consciousness in 1967. According to the facts, is the long-held belief of many North American tribes from across the North American continent of these creatures snatching women and children, with much evidence to prove this. The truth is, women snatching, child snatching Sasquatches continue to thrill, terrify, and enthrall us to this very day. David Paulides, excuse me, y'all, I'm sorry. David Paulides' successful Missing 411 book series confirms this interest in abducted missing people. The one frightening thing to consider when telling tales around a campfire at night is that it could really happen. It's a strange paranormal world we live in, to be sure. And that's the end of the encounters. I'm going to show you guys these pictures right quick, and we're going to go. I got the hair standing up on the back of my neck. I'm going to pull them out right here, and I'm going to show these to you. And then I'm going to skedaddle. Let me get out of here. I'm not liking this at all. And it's getting dark on me. Oh, we got rain right there. Holy cow. All right, here's the location of both stories in southern Oklahoma, the Choctaw. Golly. These flies are biting bad. Come on. They're sticking together because of the moisture in the air. Here's the McCurtain County Wilderness Area in Oklahoma, the site of 1855 Bigfoot War. Guys, I'm not going to show them long. I got to get back to the truck. I'm extremely nervous. McCurtain County Wilderness Area in southeast Oklahoma, with Captain Joshua Leflore encountered and fought a tribe of cannibalistic Bigfoot. Come on. Here's a recreated photo of a Bigfoot carrying off a child. In most cases, the child is gone forever, but in a few rare cases is found abandoned but alive. That looks like a real picture. Oh, somebody's coming down. I'm going to have to get back to the truck in a minute so I ain't blocking the road. The marauding Bigfoot on the Choctaw Indian Reservation in Kiowa Indian Reservation in Oklahoma. And these are artist renderings, I'm sure. I don't like this area right here at all. Here's two Choctaw Indians who were Union members in the 1860s. And that's a real photograph. Copy of a real photograph. I'm sorry I'm blowing through these, you guys. I'm scared. I mean, I don't know how to say it without, there's no way to sugarcoat it. I'm just scared. Here's Captain LaFleur and 3 of the Bigfoot. And there's victims in that drawing. And I am beyond nervous. I'm going to grab my stuff and get out of here. Alright guys, this is the end of the articles. If you want to watch the drive back out of here, I'm not going to put all of it down because I am way back here. But I will have the camera on the hood and I'll be showing bits of the trip out. You're welcome to hang around. If not, I'll see you next time. I love you. God bless you. Have a wonderful afternoon. Be kind. Be safe. Enjoy all that you do. If there's anything I can do for you, please reach out to me on my email at standinggoatsrescue@yahoo.com. Now I got some sound coming from back there. I'm going to get out of here and I got to change my battery. I do. Crud. Y'all have a good day. Holy cow, let me show you something. Got broken limbs right here. The limbs are broken and it's got what looks like the hair. See it? And that limb's broke off. I didn't even notice that. Alright guys, I'm out of here. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Gotta find my trail. I think I came this way.